Hello everybody. It has come to my attention the vitality of something that seems so simple yet is so complicated. It is something that impacts our actions, choices, and entire lives. Perception. Okay, I know the idea of perception may not seem as important as the world takeover of artificial intelligence or the zombie apocalypse, but it actually has a larger impact on our society than you might think. Let's start by answering the question, what is perception? According to a Harvard professor, perception is the organization, interpretation, and identification of sensory information in order to represent and understand the environment. In other words, perception is the attempt that your brain makes to understand the information collected by your five senses that are sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. We know this. When we were little, we were taught to sing this song, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, eyes and ears, and mouth and nose. So how can this thing that's been ingrained in our minds since childhood even have a remote importance to our lives today? Plato, a classical Greek philosopher from 400 BC, actually has some interesting takes on perception. In his allegory of the cave, he presents the following scenario. Imagine you're a prisoner in a cave. Your neck and legs are bound so that you cannot look around at the cave, others, or even yourself. A ways behind you in the cave is a fire, and in front of the fire is a horizontal walkway where people walk behind it holding different objects above their heads. You only see the shadows of the objects that the people are holding. The sounds of people walking echo off the walls of the cave, and you, as the prisoner, perceive these sounds to come from the shadows themselves. It is your perception that the shadows are your reality. There's nothing more to your life than these shadows projected on the wall. And this way, we have our perception. We are prisoners in a cave, and the shadows on the wall are we can only see a portion or a shadow of what the universe actually holds. So what should we do about this? Should we just strive to live the best lives we can while only looking at shadows on a wall? Or should we pursue an escape from the cave? And if we are to escape the cave, what would this actually require us to do? So in order to escape the cave, you would first have to have the original idea to break your bonds. After you break your bonds, after you decide that this is something you want to do, you would need to climb up and over rocks, out of the cave, and into sunlight. This would be an awesome and scary experience for someone who's never even seen the light of the sun before, but only the shadows from a much lesser light, a dim fire. This experience would be similar to that of a baby being born for the first time. It would evoke similar emotions, and an escape from the cave would actually symbolize a birth into a new reality and into a new mindset. We can actually connect this concept of being a prisoner in a cave to the concept of our human tendency to follow a crowd. If we choose to follow a crowd our whole lives, then our perception of reality is only going to be what the crowd does, and it's only going to be what a crowd thinks. Our perception of reality is only a portion or a shadow of what the universe actually holds. We can analyze that social media contributes to this shadow perception. Hashtag.org quotes that 56% of people with social media have FOMO, or a fear of missing out. This makes sense because it's simply difficult to go against the norm, and it's difficult to think differently than the rest of society. It would be perhaps emotionally and psychologically taxing to delete your social media accounts, especially if you have a fear of missing out. This would mean that you would be afraid to climb out of the cave, and you would be afraid to see the light of the sun. We can connect this, or we can analyze that this concept of following a crowd with social media actually is what imprisons us in the cave. It is social media that causes us to see these shadows on a wall. So maybe you should delete your social media accounts and go against the norm. It may result in social rejection, sadness, or pain, or the initial blindness that you experience from looking at the sun for the first time. But maybe this pain is only temporary. Maybe one day you will arise to see the full glory of the sun, and your eyes will adjust. After all, they were made to see the light of the sun and not the light of a shadow. Maybe one day you will be able to go against reality and go against society in order to delete your shadows.